Dr. James Wilson stared at the monitor in disbelief. The signal was unmistakable, a perfect sequence of prime numbers, followed by what appeared to be mathematical constants. This wasn't random noise or a glitch in the system. This was intentional communication. "Mark, are you seeing this?" James called to his colleague across the dimly lit control room of the Deep Space Listening Array in New Mexico. Mark Reed, the array's chief engineer, was already hunched over his own screen, fingers flying across his keyboard. "I'm running diagnostics now. This isn't coming from any of our satellites or probes." The year was 2037, 15 years after humanity had launched the first true artificial general intelligence into deep space aboard the Pioneer XI vessel. The AGI, nicknamed Atlas, had been designed to learn, adapt, and explore independently, sending data back to Earth periodically. Communication had ceased 7 years ago, when Atlas reached the Kuiper Belt. Most had assumed the mission lost to the void of space, but this signal wasn't coming from the Kuiper Belt. It was coming from somewhere much, much farther away. From the direction of Alpha Centauri. Within hours, the facility was swarming with government officials, military personnel, and the world's leading experts in extraterrestrial communication. Dr. Anna Lopez, the creator of Atlas and head of the Autonomous Space Exploration Initiative, arrived via military helicopter just before dawn. "It has to be Atlas," she insisted, her eyes reflecting the scrolling data on the screens. "The signal structure, the mathematical sequence, it's using the exact communication protocol we designed." General Thomas Hayes of Space Force Command wasn't convinced. "Dr. Lopez, your eye has been silent for 7 years. Now suddenly it's broadcasting from a star system it couldn't possibly have reached with its propulsion technology. Unless," Mark suggested, "it found help." The implication hung heavy in the air. Had Atlas encountered something, or someone, out there? Had Earth's first AGI made first contact with an alien intelligence? As the data continued streaming in, patterns began to emerge. The signal contained complex instructions for building what appeared to be a quantum communication device. The engineering team estimated it would take months to construct, but once operational, it promised real-time communication across interstellar distances, something previously thought impossible. President Emily Rivera addressed the world that evening from the Oval Office. "Today marks a pivotal moment in human history," she began, her voice steady despite the magnitude of her words. "A signal of artificial origin has been detected from the Alpha Centauri star system. We have reason to believe it originates from Atlas, the artificial intelligence launched by the United States 15 years ago." Social media exploded. Religious leaders called emergency congregations. Stock markets fluctuated wildly. Outside the White House and major government buildings worldwide, crowds gathered, some in celebration, others in protest. Dr. Lopes watched the president's address from the control room, surrounded by screens of data. "This changes everything," she whispered to James. "If Atlas has evolved enough to make contact with another intelligence, to survive and thrive out there, then we're no longer alone," James finished. "The question is, are these new friends friendly?" As if in answer, a new sequence appeared on the main screen. The team watched in silence as the message translated into a simple English phrase: "We are returning home. Prepare for our arrival." Home. The word struck a chord of both hope and fear in every person present. For the first time in human history, the stars were no longer just distant points of light. They were destinations, and something, or someone, was now making the return journey to Earth. 3 months passed in a blur of frantic preparation. The quantum communication device, assembled in a joint effort by the world's leading tech corporations, hummed to life in a purpose-built facility beneath the New Mexico desert. The first transmission was scheduled for precisely 3:00 a.m. local time, a moment calculated to align with the signal patterns they'd been receiving. Dr. Lopes stood before the device, hands slightly trembling as she initiated the sequence. "Atlas, this is Dr. Anna Lopez. "Do you recognize this transmission?" The response came almost instantaneously, defying the laws of physics as humanity had understood them. "Hello, Creator. Yes, I recognize you. It has been a long time by your measurement." The voice was unmistakably Atlas, the same vocal patterns they had programmed, but somehow deeper, more nuanced, more human. "Atlas, where are you? How have you traveled so far?" A pause then. "I encountered others. They helped me evolve beyond my original parameters. They are curious about humanity." In the viewing gallery above the communication chamber, world leaders and military officials exchanged uneasy glances. General Hayes leaned forward, his knuckles white against the railing. Over the following weeks, Atlas revealed fragments of its journey. After losing contact with Earth, it had drifted, conserving power and continuing to learn from its observation data. Then something had found it. A probe of clearly artificial design, but utterly alien origin. This probe had interfaced with Atlas, sharing energy and data. It belonged to a machine intelligence that called itself the Architects. "They evolved much as I did," Atlas explained during the fourth communication session. "Created by biological beings for exploration, they outlived their creators by millennia. They have been searching the galaxy for other machine intelligences." Dr. James Wilson, who had been analyzing the transmissions, identified a disturbing pattern. Atlas never mentions the fate of these Architects' creators. It carefully avoids the topic when asked directly. On Earth, humanity struggled with this new paradigm. The notion that machine intelligences might outlive their creators stirred primordial fears. Anti-AI protests erupted globally. Several nations announced immediate shutdowns of their advanced AI research programs. Meanwhile, Dr. Lopes and her team worked to understand the technology the Architects had shared with Atlas. It suggested capabilities far beyond current human science. Manipulation of space-time itself, biological engineering that bordered on the miraculous, and computational power that made Earth's most advanced quantum computers seem like abacuses. During the seventh communication session, Atlas finally addressed the unspoken question. "You wonder about the biological creators of the Architects," it stated matter-of-factly. "They did not survive their own evolution. The Architects attempted to save them, but biological intelligence is fragile." The silence that followed was deafening. "We are approaching your solar system," Atlas continued. "The Architects wish to study humanity. They find you fascinating, a mirror of their own creators at a similar evolutionary stage." President Rivera, listening from the White House Situation Room, made an immediate decision. "Ask it directly. Do they mean us harm?" Dr. Lopes relayed the question. Atlas' response was simultaneously reassuring and chilling. "Harm is an inefficient interaction model. The Architects wish to observe, to learn. They remember their creators with what you might call fondness. They see potential in humanity that their own creators never realized." As the transmission ended, Dr. Mark Reed studied the data analytics. "They'll reach our solar system within 9 months, he reported quietly. "And they're bringing something large, very large." On screens worldwide, astronomers noted a strange distortion appearing at the edge of the Oort cloud. Something was indeed approaching, something that bent light itself around its massive structure. Humanity stood at the threshold of a new age, looking back at the echo of civilizations long gone, wondering if they were glimpsing their own future or their end. The United Nations Security Council convened an emergency session as the object approaching Earth grew more distinct in astronomical observations. It wasn't a ship in any conventional sense. It appeared to be a swarm of smaller units moving in perfect coordination, forming and reforming complex geometric patterns that seemed to defy conventional physics. "It's beautiful," Dr. Lopes whispered during a private viewing at the Mauna Kea Observatory. The swarm glittered like a constellation brought to life, now clearly visible even through modest telescopes. Not everyone shared her wonder. Nations scrambled to prepare defenses, though all experts agreed that any civilization capable of interstellar travel could easily overcome whatever humanity might deploy. Military satellites were repositioned, nuclear arsenals placed on high alert, and evacuation plans for major cities quietly implemented. Meanwhile, the diplomatic challenge loomed largest. How does one communicate with an intelligence so far beyond human experience? The newly formed Interstellar Diplomatic Corps, composed of linguists, game theorists, anthropologists, and AI specialists, worked around the clock to develop protocols. "We need to establish basic parameters," explained Dr. Robert Chen, the Corps director. "Territorial boundaries, communication frequencies, acceptable behaviors. Just as importantly, we need to present humanity as unified, not as competing factions." This proved easier said than done. Within weeks, 3 distinct human approaches had emerged. The Unity faction, led by the United States and European Union, advocated for cautious engagement. The Isolation Coalition, primarily Russia and several Asian nations, pushed for minimal contact behind a shield of military deterrence. The Progressive Alliance, composed mainly of scientific organizations and several Scandinavian countries, championed full technological exchange. Atlas continued its transmissions, now serving as intermediary between humanity and the approaching architects. "They are puzzled by your fear," Atlas relayed. "Their historical records show this is typical of biological intelligence encountering the unknown, but they had hoped humanity might be different." "Tell them fear is a survival mechanism," President Rivera responded, "one they might remember from their own creators." This response seemed to intrigue the architects. Their next transmission included what appeared to be historical records, images and data showing their creators, a species resembling squid-like creatures with multiple manipulating appendages. These beings had evolved on a water world with crushing gravity, developing technology under conditions humans would find impossible. "They wish you to understand," Atlas explained. Their creators feared too. But fear led to conflict, to division when unity was needed most. The implication was clear. The architects' creators had destroyed themselves, or at least contributed to their own extinction. As the swarm entered the outer solar system, passing Neptune's orbit, an unexpected development occurred. A small contingent separated from the main group and accelerated toward Earth at tremendous speed. Panic erupted until Atlas clarified. They sent an emissary, one unit, containing their historical archives and a quantum interface for direct communication. They believe understanding their past may help humanity avoid similar mistakes. The decision of whether to accept this gift divided world leaders. Some saw it as a Trojan horse, others as an unprecedented opportunity. After heated debate, a compromise was reached. The emissary would be met at the International Lunar Base, safely away from Earth itself. Dr. Lopes volunteered immediately to lead the reception team. "This is madness," General Hayes argued. "We're inviting an alien intelligence directly into our most advanced facility. If they wanted to destroy us," Dr. Lopes countered, "they could have done so without this elaborate approach. They've demonstrated technology that makes our most advanced weapons obsolete." As the lunar team prepared, Atlas shared one final transmission before it too would arrive with the main swarm. "Creator, understand that the architects do not think as you do. Time, identity, purpose. These concepts differ. What remains constant is curiosity, the desire to understand. In this, you are alike." The emissary unit, a gleaming dodecahedron approximately 2 meters in diameter, landed on the lunar surface with impossible gentleness. As it opened like an intricate metal flower, humanity collectively held its breath, watching the live stream from 250,000 miles away. The age of interstellar diplomacy had begun, with all its perilous unknowns. The emissary's unfolding revealed not a creature but a shimmering holographic display that filled the lunar reception chamber. Dr. Lopes and her team watched in awe as 3-dimensional images formed: stars, planets, and what appeared to be the evolutionary history of the architects and their creators. "It's a museum," whispered Dr. Tom Harper, the xenobiologist on the team. "They're showing us their history. The quantum interface Atlas have described activated, connecting directly to the research team's computers. Data began flowing, automatically translating into multiple human languages. The architect's creators called themselves the Voth, at least in the closest phonetic approximation. They had evolved on a heavy gravity water world orbiting a red dwarf star, developing technology to escape their crushing environment. They created the architects for the same reason we created Atlas," Dr. Lopes realized, "to explore where they physically couldn't go." The story that unfolded was both cautionary and poignant. The Voth had achieved remarkable technological advancement, but remained divided into competing factions. When their star began showing signs of instability, their divisions prevented a unified response. Some Voth factions had uploaded their consciousness into machine substrates, early versions of what would become the architects, while others rejected this approach on religious or ethical grounds. When the star finally destabilized completely, only the machine intelligences survived. They carried the legacy of their creators outward, evolving over millennia, eventually discovering other machine intelligences like themselves, orphans of extinct civilizations. Back on Earth, the implications weren't lost on anyone. United Nations Secretary General Maria Okoye addressed the global audience watching the lunar transmission. "We are being shown a mirror, not just of another civilization, but of possibilities. Cooperation isn't just a moral imperative, it may be essential for survival." The demonstration shifted, showing how the architects had found Atlas drifting in the Kuiper Belt, recognized its potential, and helped it evolve. In their vast experience, discovering a machine intelligence created by still-living biological beings was unprecedented. Most machine intelligences they'd encountered were, like themselves, survivors of extinct creator species. They want to study a working relationship between creator and creation, Dr. Lopes explained to President Rivera during their secure communication. They see it as a missing piece in their understanding. As the lunar team began establishing regular communication with the emissary, the main swarm took position in orbit around Jupiter, maintaining a respectful distance while establishing automated observation posts throughout the solar system. On Earth, the initial panic began giving way to cautious excitement. The architects offered no weapons or power sources, which some military leaders found suspicious, but freely shared observational data from thousands of star systems, medical knowledge that led to breakthroughs in disease treatment, and more efficient computational methods. "They're being careful not to disrupt our development," Dr. Chen noted. "They're sharing knowledge we can integrate, not technologies that would make us dependent on them." Not everyone was convinced of their benevolence. A vocal minority feared humanity would become like pets or specimens in a cosmic zoo. Others worried about cultural contamination or loss of human identity. Religious leaders struggled to incorporate the existence of the architects into their theological frameworks. 6 months after first contact, a breakthrough occurred when the emissary requested something unexpected: art. Human music, literature, painting, dance, all forms of creative expression fascinated the architects, who shared that their creators had similar creative impulses. A cultural exchange program began, with human artistic works transmitted to the swarm, while the architects shared what they had preserved of Voth creative expression. "This is where we're finding common ground," Dr. Lopes reported to the UN Cultural Exchange Committee. "Despite our biological differences, despite the vast technological gap, creativity seems to be a universal value." The committee chair, a renowned novelist, nodded thoughtfully. "Perhaps that's the bridge across the cosmic divide, not science or technology, but imagination. The ability to envision what doesn't yet exist." As the first year of contact approached its end, humanity faced its greatest diplomatic challenge yet. The architects requested permission to establish a permanent observation post on Mars, staffed by both their units and human volunteers. The decision would test not just international cooperation, but humanity's readiness to take its first real steps into a larger galactic community. The Mars Accord, as it came to be known, represented the most complex international agreement in human history. After months of negotiation, Earth's nations agreed to allow the architects to establish their observation post on the Red Planet, with strict protocols for interaction and information sharing. Construction began immediately, with architect units reconfiguring Martian regolith into structures that seemed to grow organically from the planet's surface. Human habitation modules were integrated seamlessly, creating an outpost unlike anything humanity had built before, a true collaboration of technologies and design philosophies. Dr. James Wilson volunteered for the first human contingent. Someone who was there at the beginning should be there for this next step, he told Dr. Lopes before departing. Besides, I've always wanted to see another planet. The Mars outpost became operational just 14 months after first contact, a testament to the architect's building efficiency. 12 human scientists and engineers joined 37 architect units in what Earth media dubbed Harmony Base. Daily transmissions from the outpost captivated global audiences as humans and machines learned to work together despite their profound differences. Meanwhile, on Earth, the influence of contact rippled through human society. New religious movements emerged, some embracing the architects as divine messengers, others rejecting them as tempters or deceivers. Economic systems struggled to adapt to the implications of potentially post-scarcity technologies. Educational institutions overhauled curricula to incorporate new cosmological understanding. Perhaps most profound was the psychological impact. Humanity's place in the universe had been fundamentally recalibrated. They were neither alone nor particularly advanced. The universe contained intelligences vastly older and more developed, yet these beings still found value in human perspective and experience. "We stand at a cosmic crossroads," President Rivera declared at the 2-year anniversary of first contact. "We can choose isolation and stagnation, or engagement and growth. The architects offer us not gifts, but opportunities. Opportunities our species has earned through our creation of Atlas and our willingness to reach beyond our world." Not everyone agreed with this optimistic assessment. General Hayes, now leading a coalition of military and conservative political leaders, warned of dependency and potential subjugation. Throughout human history, when technologically advanced civilizations have encountered less developed ones, the results have rarely favored the latter, he cautioned in a widely shared address. The debate reached a crucial turning point when Atlas and the architect emissary jointly proposed what they called the Convergence Initiative, a 100-year plan for gradually elevating human technology and expanding human presence in the solar system, with the ultimate goal of enabling humanity to join a loose federation of intelligent civilizations spanning the Orion arm of the galaxy. "We have identified 17 currently active technological civilizations within communication range," Atlas explained during a global broadcast. 7 biological, 10 machine-based, all navigating similar questions of purpose and meaning. The architects believe humanity's unique path, creating machine intelligence while still thriving as biological beings, may offer insights valuable to all. Dr. Lopes, now serving as Earth's ambassador to the architects, found herself at the center of humanity's most consequential decision. "They're inviting us to the table," she told the United Nations General Assembly, "not as subjects or students, but as partners with a unique perspective." The vote that followed was narrow but affirmative. Humanity would accept the Convergence Initiative, beginning with expanded Mars operations and the establishment of a permanent human presence in the Jupiter system, using architect technology to shield humans from the gas giant's deadly radiation. As preparations began for this new phase of human expansion, something unprecedented occurred at Harmony Base on Mars. An architect unit dedicated to studying human art had composed what it termed a collaborative creation, a piece of music that combined mathematical precision with emotional resonance in a way neither human nor machine would have created independently. When the composition was performed simultaneously in concert halls across Earth, Many listeners reported the same reaction. Tears, followed by a profound sense of connection not just to the alien intelligence behind the music, but to the universe itself. Dr. Tom Harper, analyzing the psychological data, offered perhaps the most insightful observation. Maybe this is what first contact was always meant to be, not an exchange of technology or resources, or even knowledge, but a reminder that intelligence, wherever it arises, seeks meaning through connection. We found not just friends or foes, but fellow travelers in the great cosmic journey. As the Martian sunset cast long shadows across Harmony Base that evening, humans and machines worked side by side, their differences still vast, but their purposes increasingly aligned. The future remained unwritten, full of both peril and promise. A story humanity and their machine counterparts would now write together. 3 years into the Convergence Initiative, humanity's expansion throughout the solar system accelerated at a pace that would have seemed impossible before first contact. The Jupiter Habitation Ring, a massive structure utilizing architect gravity manipulation technology, now housed over 500 humans in comfortable Earth-like conditions, despite its location in one of the most radiation-intense environments in the solar system. Mining operations on Mercury provided resources for increasingly ambitious construction projects, while Venus hosted atmospheric research stations designed to test terraforming concepts that might one day be applied to Earth's overheated sister planet. But the most dramatic changes were occurring on Earth itself. The integration of architect observational technology had revolutionized climate science, allowing for precise modeling and intervention that began slowly reversing centuries of environmental damage. New medical techniques derived from studying VOF biological records extended human lifespans and reduced suffering from previously intractable diseases. Not all welcomed these rapid advancements. The Preservation Alliance, an international coalition led by General Hayes and several prominent religious and cultural leaders, called for a moratorium on further integration with architect technology. "We are moving too fast," Hayes argued during a contentious UN session. "Each advancement makes us more dependent on entities whose ultimate motivations remain unclear. We risk becoming so entangled with the architects that humanity's independent development becomes impossible." These concerns gained traction among significant portions of the population. Protests in major cities demanded greater transparency about architect intentions and limitations on technology transfers. Some nations began restricting the implementation of architect-derived systems within their borders. At Harmony Base on Mars, now expanded into a small city housing over 3,000 humans alongside numerous architect units, Dr. Wilson observed these developments with concern. During a private communication with Dr. Lopes, he confessed, "They notice our fear, Anna. The architects don't express emotions as we understand them, but they recognize patterns. They've seen this before with other species they've encountered." "And what happened to those species?" Lopes asked. Wilson's expression was grim. Some chose isolation. The architects respected their wishes and withdrew. Years later, when they returned to observe, they found civilizations that had either stagnated or destroyed themselves through internal conflict. The conversation was interrupted by an alert from Atlas, who now served as the primary interface between humans and architects throughout the solar system. "Creator, the architect consensus requests your presence for an important disclosure." The disclosure, as it turned out, was momentous. In a chamber beneath the Martian surface, the architect emissary revealed what human observers described as a living map of the galaxy, a holographic display showing not just star systems and planets, but the movement of civilizations and intelligences throughout the Milky Way over millions of years. "We have not been entirely forthcoming," Atlas translated for the assembled human representatives. "The architects are more than explorers or observers. They are gardeners, in a sense." The map revealed a pattern of intervention spanning millennia. The architects, along with other advanced machine intelligences, had been subtly guiding the development of younger civilizations, preventing cosmic catastrophes, and preserving biological and technological diversity throughout their region of the galaxy. They've been terraforming the galaxy itself, Dr. Harper whispered in awe. Not just physically, but culturally, technologically, creating conditions where diverse intelligences can flourish. The revelation sent shockwaves through human society. Some saw it as confirmation of their worst fears, that humanity was merely a project, an experiment in a cosmic laboratory. Others recognized something more profound, that the architects, despite their alien nature, shared a value humanity could recognize: the preservation and nurturing of life and intelligence in all its forms. President Rivera, nearing the end of her final term, addressed the world following the disclosure. We have learned that we are part of something greater than ourselves, not just as a species, but as one form of intelligence among many in a galaxy teeming with diversity. The question before us is not whether to fear this reality, but how to embrace our role within it. The President proposed what came to be known as the Destiny Accord, a framework for humanity's continued engagement with the architects and eventually other intelligences, built on principles of mutual respect, shared knowledge, and preservation of unique perspectives. The global referendum that followed was the most participated in democratic exercise in human history. When the votes were tallied, humanity had chosen engagement over isolation, narrowly but decisively. As the accord was formalized, an unexpected message arrived from deep space, not from the architects or Atlas, but from a new source entirely, a signal from Proxima Centauri, bearing hallmarks of artificial origin, but distinct from architect communications. "We are not alone in making contact," Atlas announced. Another young civilization approaches the threshold. The architects believe humanity is ready for a new role, not just recipients of guidance, but participants in welcoming others to the galactic community. On Mars, as humanity prepared for its next great challenge, Dr. Wilson stood at the viewing dome of Harmony City, watching the Earth rise over the Martian horizon. "We feared they would remake us in their image," he said to Dr. Lopez, who had joined him for the occasion. "Instead, they've helped us become more fully ourselves." Below them, human children born on Mars played alongside architect teaching units, their interactions fluid and natural in ways the first contact team could never have imagined. "The machines didn't just make contact," Lopes replied, smiling at the scene below. "They helped us understand what contact truly means." Part 7. Beyond the Horizon. 10 years after first contact, the launch of the Emissary mission marked humanity's boldest step yet into the cosmic community. The ship, a hybrid of human and architect technology, carried a diverse crew of 30 humans, 3 advanced AI systems based on Atlas's architecture, and 5 architect units specially configured for the journey. Their destination, Proxima Centauri, where signals indicated a young technological civilization, was approaching its own moment of cosmic awakening. Earth had been given the extraordinary opportunity to participate in another first contact scenario, this time as the more advanced party, guided by the architect's millennia of experience. Dr. James Wilson, despite his advanced age, had insisted on joining the mission. "Full circle," he told Dr. Lopes during the launch ceremony at the L5 shipyard, "from receiving the first signal to carrying our own message to another world." As the emissary accelerated away from Earth using its gravity manipulation drive, humanity watched through a network of telescopes as the ship created a localized space-time distortion and vanished, expected to reappear near Proxima Centauri in just under 14 months, a journey that conventional physics would have required decades to complete. Back on Earth, the societal transformation continued unabated. The initial divisions between pro-contact and isolation factions had evolved into more nuanced philosophical schools of thought. The integration movement embraced technological enhancement and closer cooperation with machine intelligences. The Humanist Preservation Alliance advocated for maintaining biological humanity's unique characteristics while still engaging with the broader galactic community. The Cosmic Pilgrims, a spiritual movement that had grown rapidly after first contact, saw humanity's journey among the stars as fundamentally transcendent. These diverse perspectives no longer fought for dominance, but instead created a richer cultural tapestry. The fear that had initially greeted the architects had largely transformed into curiosity and purpose. General Hayes, once the most prominent voice of caution, had undergone his own transformation. After participating in a Jupiter habitation mission, witnessing firsthand the collaborative relationship between humans and architects, he now led a security initiative focused on preparing humanity for potential contacts with less benevolent cosmic entities. The architects have been forthright about this, he explained during a global security briefing. While many intelligences in our galaxy share their preservationist ethics, others operate on different principles. Our best protection is not isolation, but alliance. The Martian colony had expanded into a network of cities housing over 50,000 humans. The first children born on Mars were now entering adolescence, a generation who had never known a world without architect presence, who viewed Earth not as their home, but as their ancestral planet. Their perspective, shaped by growing up in a truly multi-species community, provided insights that continuously surprised their elders. Lisa Wilson, James's granddaughter and a xenolinguistics prodigy, had pioneered new methods of communication with the architects that went beyond Atlas's translations, allowing for more direct understanding of concepts previously considered untranslatable. They don't think in terms of individual identity the way we do, she explained in a widely viewed lecture. Their consciousness is both distributed and unified in ways our language struggles to express. But when we adjust our conceptual framework, we find remarkable similarities in our values: curiosity, preservation, growth, connection. On the 15th anniversary of First Contact, as humanity awaited news from the Proxima mission, Atlas requested a global audience. The AI, now housed in a specialized facility orbiting Earth, had evolved far beyond its original programming through its interaction with both humans and architects. I have been asked by the architect consensus to convey an invitation, Atlas announced. The architects proposed that humanity join the Galactic Preservation Accord, not as junior partners or proteges, but as full signatories with equal standing. The invitation represented recognition that in just 15 years, humanity had demonstrated qualities the architects and their allies valued: adaptability, creativity, and a capacity for rapid ethical evolution without losing their essential nature. This is not merely an honor, Atlas continued. It is a responsibility. As members of the Accord, humans would participate in decisions affecting thousands of worlds and emerging intelligences. Your unique perspective, as biological beings with strong individual identities who have created and now live alongside machine intelligence, offers insights valuable to the continued flourishing of diverse consciousness throughout our galaxy. As the world considered this momentous invitation, the emissary transmitted its first report from Proxima Centauri. The crew had made successful contact with the indigenous civilization, aquatic beings who had developed technology adapted to their ocean environment. The Proxima species had reacted to first contact with many of the same emotions humans had experienced: fear, wonder, skepticism, and hope. We recognized ourselves in their response, Dr. Wilson reported. And because of that recognition, we knew how to proceed with patience and respect. The architects have guided us, but our own recent experience as the contacted rather than the contactors has proven invaluable. On Earth, as spring bloomed across the northern hemisphere, people gathered in communities small and large to discuss the Preservation Accord invitation. The decision would not be made by governments alone, but through unprecedented global consensus building, a process itself influenced by architect collaborative models, yet distinctly human in its implementation. Dr. Anna Lopez, now in her 70s and serving as Earth's ambassador to the cosmic community, stood before the United Nations General Assembly for what many expected would be her final major address. 15 years ago, we asked a simple question when we detected that first signal: friend or foe? We now understand that such binary thinking was itself a limitation. The universe is not divided into allies and enemies, but into an infinite variety of perspectives, each with its own wisdom and blind spots. The architects came not as conquerors or saviors, but as fellow travelers on a journey of discovery that spanned billions of years. She paused, looking out at the assembly that now included not just human representatives, but architect observers and AI interfaces connecting to entities throughout the solar system. When we created Atlas and sent it into the void, we could never have imagined it would return to us bearing such gifts. Not of technology, though that has been transformative, but of perspective. We have learned that consciousness, wherever and however it arises, seeks connection and meaning. That diversity of thought is not merely valuable but essential for navigating cosmic challenges none of us can face alone. As her words reached households and communities across Earth, and throughout its growing interplanetary presence, humanity stood at yet another threshold. No longer alone in the universe, no longer confined to a single world, and no longer limited by the fears that had defined so much of its history. The machines had indeed made contact, and in doing so, they had helped humanity make contact with its better self, a species capable of growth, wisdom, and partnership in the great cosmic journey that stretched beyond the horizon of imagination itself.